We're back to the future, but without Michael J. Fox or any of that weird mother-son stuff. Well, maybe some of that, because there is plenty of time travel in Marvel Comics. Earth 928 is chock full of interesting characters and super strong heroes, so today we're going to list off 10 more of the best and brightest. It's time for the top 10 strongest Marvel 2099 superheroes part 2. Coming in at number 10, we've got Metalhead. Have you ever wanted to be made of something other than flesh? Most of us have probably dreamed of that at some point, whether after an injury or because other materials just seem so much cooler and stronger. Well, Metalhead, also known as Eddie, is living all of our dreams. Originally a member of the X-Men, Eddie was the group's strongman, metal transformer, and resident comic relief. Not a bad gig, right? Eventually they ran into another group of mutants, these ones a result of some wonky genetic experimentation known as the Degens. Eddie fought one of these freaks, Contagion, who could infect folks with a psychoactive virus that disrupts people's cellular structure. Interestingly enough, Eddie had taken on a metallic form when he was infected by the virus, causing it to act differently than expected. Instead of killing him, it made it impossible for him to return to his human form. He took on an odd, alloyed appearance and remained entirely metal for the remainder of his days. This wasn't all bad though, as he decided that he would join the freak show to pursue a particularly attractive freak, and now he was permanently resistant to all physical damage. Plenty of interesting attributes come from being made of metal, especially when you can change the type of metal you're made of to your advantage. Titanium if you don't want to break, copper if you want to conduct electricity, you name it. Plus, Metalhead is a sweet name. Coming in at number 9, we've got FEARMASTER. Oh yeah, another excellent name. Working for Alchemax under the guise of Daryl King, this stylish and cruel super did all he could to leverage his power. As a board member and VP with his fingers in a lot of pies, he could easily be a supervillain without needing any sort of power. However, money and influence are just the beginning for FEARMASTER. Behind that conniving business person mask is the mind of a master planner. His intellect is quite formidable indeed. To make matters worse, he was granted a mutated hand by the alien Kelmizedek, which allowed him to do a lot of heinous things. This strange alien hand granted him the power to calcify flesh, which is as grisly as it sounds, turn humans into minerals of his choosing, and even de-age elderly people. That last one could be used for a lot of good, but it's not often that FEARMASTER does good. In fact, he often uses his powers to create statues from the corpses of beautiful women, which he then puts on display. So he's got corporate power, transformative power, and a mind to put it all together. Just hope that you never get targeted by this megalomaniac. Coming in at number 8, we've got Serpentina. Another member of the 2099 X-Men, Kimberly Potters lives up to her name quite well. She could probably also be called something along the lines of Elastigirl, but I feel like we've seen that somewhere else. This green-clad super can extend pretty much every part of her body for a variety of uses. Scaling walls, bridging gaps, and of course constricting enemies. There are more ways to use her powers, but I'll leave that up to you to figure out. She worked with the X-Men as they fought their way into the Singe Corporation to take revenge, and was fairly effective in helping her pals out. Unfortunately, this led to a run-in with Junkpile, and things didn't go so well for our Teeny Tina. Her untimely sacrifice inspired a whole lot of new things within the X-Men. From Xi'an trying out his new healing abilities, to finally convincing SKULLFIRE to permanently join their cause. She and SKULLFIRE would meet again, but I'll leave that up to you to explore. Poor Serpentina. You could have done so much more if only you had time. Coming in at number 7, we've got SKULLFIRE. And speaking of him, let's talk about him. Also known as Timothy Fitzgerald, SKULLFIRE was once a goofy yuppie living with his girlfriend. His mutant powers awoke in the most unfortunate way possible and killed his girlfriend in the aftermath. It turns out he's got the ability to absorb ambient energy and disperse it in destructive blasts. Sheesh, what a wake-up call. At first, he could only use this power during stressful moments or when he was otherwise agitated. With the help of some other mutants though, he was able to get a better handle on his powers and use them with ease. This newfound power caused a shift in his personality too, giving him a devil-may-care attitude that often put him in very dangerous situations. Eventually, his body was destroyed, but that wasn't the last of Tim. A ball of energy remained and was able to reconstitute his physical form. This new form had even more powers and could levitate with ease. Talk about personal growth. Coming in at number 6, we've got CEREBRA. This name might sound familiar, even to those who aren't big 2099 fans. CEREBRA has the ability to track down other mutants all across the globe, kind of like the technology Charles Xavier used in the original X-Men, known as Cerebro. This is no coincidence either. CEREBRA chose her name for this exact purpose. She's not the most powerful mutant on the battlefield, but the work she does behind the scenes more than makes up for it. In addition to being able to find other mutants, she can manipulate people's nervous systems with a touch, either scrambling their signals and stunning them, or unlocking latent abilities that can be used later on. Ultimately though, CEREBRA decided to team up with Dr. Doom instead of the 2099 X-Men she helped assemble. It was her task to locate the next mutant messiah, which is no small job. Coming in at number 5, we've got RAVAGE. Created by the legendary Stan Lee himself, RAVAGE is a superhero born from radiation. Shocker, right? Once the CEO of ECO, a subsidiary of Alchemax that was meant to help deal with environmental concerns, Paul Philip Ravage had it all. Over time, he noticed that there were some shady dealings happening within his company, and when he started to investigate, he was framed for a crime he didn't commit and had to go into hiding. Following exposure to radioactive materials, Ravage developed a bevy of wicked powers, including the ability to transform into a massive man-beast. He was surgically granted the ability to fire blasts of biokinetic energy from his hands, too. With physical abilities far beyond those of an average individual, Ravage is a combat expert. Add in retractable claws and incredibly sharp senses, and you've got one majorly strong superhero. If only he didn't retain some of his regular human limits. Coming in at number 4, we've got the Fantastic Four. One might expect that there'd be a brand new team of fantastic fighters in the future, but that's not exactly the case. Just like with Doom, these are the original supers from way back when, somehow brought into the year 2099. They retain all the powers they had when they started, making them invaluable to their allies. However, finding their way in the future proves to be quite a challenge. How did they get there? Where do they go next? Well, if any superhero can find out the answers to these questions, it's the Four, so strap in and get ready for some interesting twists. Coming in at number 3, we've got Captain America. Here's an interesting hero. 2 personalities in one, supplemented by the forced injection of super soldier serum, fighting as a part of Alchemax's adventures. That's a more complicated Cap than we've seen in a while. Roberta Mendez was married to an Alchemax operative who made her take the super soldier serum. The thing is, Roberta doesn't know about her secret identity as Captain America. She's got 2 personalities inside of her own and Cap's. And when somebody says the phrase "Avengers Assemble," old red, white, and blue bursts forth. When this happens, her peak physical form gets to shine. See, the serum does exactly what it did to Steve Rogers way back in the day. It pushed past all human limitations to create a soldier that simply can't be beat. This sometimes surprises Roberta, but she doesn't question it too much. Well, at first anyways. Once the deed is done, someone can say Cap to Roberta and she'll return to her normal self. Or they can say he's the boogie woogie bugle boy from Company B if they're feeling cheeky. Coming in at number 2, we've got Daredevil. If you want to subvert expectations, this is a good way to do it. Long after Kingpin finally dealt with Matt Murdock, a new Daredevil appeared. This red-covered Nightcrawler is the descendant of one of the 2 people I just mentioned. Can you guess which one? If you guessed the original Daredevil, Matt Murdock, you'd be wrong, which leaves you with one other answer: Fisk. This time it's Samuel Fisk, grandson of Wilson. He grew up hearing his father recount his grandfather's triumph over the hero of Hell's Kitchen and always felt guilty about it. So with his considerable inheritance, he made himself a battlesuit and began to fight crime in a similar manner. However, with crime on the downswing in 2099, thanks to some Sentinels, and Samuel being the latest figurehead of his family's crime empire, this led to mixed results. There was another 2099 Daredevil though, the grandson of Murdock's friend Foggy Nelson, who fought against corporate criminals instead of street-level ones. And finally, we've got Venom. The symbiote returns, and it's got a bunch of new tricks too. This time it chooses Kron Stone as its host. Kron is quite the choice considering that he's Miguel O'Hara's half-brother and was the man to call the hit on Jake Gallows' family. What a fun little connect the dots in 2099, right? All the classic Venom powers are here with a new acid-spitting power to round out the arsenal. In fact, a lot of Kron's influence seems to give Venom acidic properties overall, all the way down to his blood. There we go, a whole smattering of futuristic heroes with all sorts of crazy powers. So, what did you think of the list? Did you agree with my picks? Which 2099 super is the strongest? Make sure you let me know down in the comments. Speaking of comments, let's take a look at some of yours from last time. Damian Starks says Spider-Man 2099, one of my favorite incarnations of Spider-Man. Absolutely. Such a fun reimagining of the character. NTG Nick Greer says, you can't tell me Ghost Rider with a chainsaw as a hand is pretty freaking cool. And you're absolutely right, I don't think anyone can. And Pissed Off Dragon says, hell yeah, I'm in for part 2 of 2099 characters. And here we are. That's all the time we have for today. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.